Hey, 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 it's 100% authentic me today. I'm Michele, and this is episode number 8. I can no longer stay silent. I hope you're ready for this. Welcome to the I Cut the Mustard show, where a plant-based diet and small, simple moves make healthy change happen. And where we believe that you already have what it takes to slice through any barrier that stands in your way. Shing! You're sharp enough. You cut the mustard. Hey there, good morning. And for me, it is early morning. If my voice is sounding a little bit like it's the morning, it's because I woke up last night in kind of a cold sweat, honestly, and I could not go back to sleep. I'm saying last night, but it is the middle of the night. It is like 1 a.m. because I woke up and I couldn't go back to sleep. I kept thinking about this topic and I just had to come down here to my favorite studio and record something for you guys, something straight from my heart that I'm very passionate about. So today I wanted to talk to you about staying silent and what I call the stages of awakening for a vegan or plant-based lifestyle. So I'm not sure where you're coming from right now, but if you're listening to this podcast, it's likely because you live a plant-based lifestyle or a vegan lifestyle, and or you want to learn more about it and you want to move that direction. And I think each of us kind of goes through these stages of awakening in our journey. And whether you're coming at this journey because you want to lose weight and you've heard that a plant-based diet is great, or you've heard all the health benefits of it, you just want to turn your health around, and that's why you became plant-based, or if it's because you are an animal rights or a earth enthusiast and you just want to protect the earth and the animals in it, then I welcome you to this podcast. I genuinely love all of you, and I want as many hands on deck as possible. I want us to unite together in love for ourselves and for the world. So no matter if you're vegan or plant-based or where you're coming from, I feel like each one of us, number one, has an original awakening. I'm sure you can remember back to when you saw or heard something that just changed your life. Maybe it was the Forks Over Knives documentary or the Game Changers documentary, or maybe you read a bunch of studies or picked up a book that told you about the amazing health benefits of the plant-based diet. Or maybe something woke you up to animals and how they're being treated in our industrial system. Maybe you've been an animal lover all your life, and that's really what motivates you to move forward and to eat plants, because you just love life and you want to protect it. But I'm sure you can remember back to when you saw that thing, you heard that thing, your heart was touched, and you just became very passionate about this way of life. And I feel like this awakening is kind of a short moment, but it's one that you'll never, ever forget, where your eyes opened up to a new reality and your life was changed. Such a powerful, beautiful moment. I just want to take a moment to honor that moment in your life. Because shortly after that moment, you move into phase 2 of the awakening, where you become a plant-based vegan proselyte. This is the most exciting part of the awakening, these phases. I just love this part. And in fact, a few weeks ago, I went out to eat with my husband. We went to a faculty dinner that he had, and he is a scientist in the medical school. And a lot of his colleagues, honestly, are creating drugs for solving all of these major issues that we know can be solved with eating plants. So it's a little bit ironic, honestly, but we're at this faculty meeting, and a lot of times I feel out of place because many of them on one time on a different occasion, I was talking to someone and they said, my goal is to create a pill that'll just basically dissolve the fat on your body so that you can eat whatever you want and you won't have the effect of it. So that's how he was going to solve diabetes and obesity. And I just smiled and I knew I needed to go talk to somebody else because I knew we just weren't seeing the same vision in our lives. And so anyways, I was expecting the same response on this particular occasion, but the spaces, we got there a little bit late. Spaces were limited. We ended up sitting by just one of his colleagues. Super, super nice guy who ironically just became plant-based about 7 months before this. And we spent almost 2 hours talking about the plant-based diet because he was so excited about it. He couldn't wait to tell me everything about how it had changed his life. He had been vegetarian for a long time. One weekend he decided to go vegan, and immediately he saw this huge change in his health. He didn't have heartburn anymore. He said he had to get an endoscopy every year because things were just so bad right there. And immediately he knew that that was solved. His energy, his brain clarity was so much higher. So after only 3 days on a plant-based diet, he decided not to go back. And he was in that plant-based proselyte stage where we are so excited about this message. We have found the cure for cancer. We've found the answer, the solution to saving our planet, right? To saving our animals on the planet. And we get so, so excited about this message that we want to share it with the whole world. Am I right, my friends? We've all been there. So we go out there into the world and he was telling me all about it, right? So we're sitting down at this dinner, and at one point, another faculty member friend comes over to sit down and chat for a minute, and he mentioned his high cholesterol and how he has high cholesterol because of some genetic reasons. His dad had it, blah, blah, blah. So immediately my friend who has just gone plant-based, and again, we're fired up because we've been talking about it for the last hour. He turns to this friend, this faculty member, and he says, you should try the plant-based diet. And for the next 10 minutes, he proceeded to sell him on the plant-based diet. He's like, just try it for 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, just see if it's going to help you out. And the other guy just kept arguing, saying, no, it's not going to help because, again, mine's genetic and that's not going to do any good. But I just smiled, the biggest smile, and I jumped right in and I was like, you know what? Just 2 weeks. Just give it 2 weeks. I bet you'll notice a difference. And I truly, truly believe that you will, right? We have the cure for cancer. I can't tell you how many podcasts I've listened to, especially about selling and business. They always bring up this example. They say, if you had the cure for cancer, you'd be out there on the streets proselyting to everybody, trying to convince them of what you've got, right? Everybody uses this example, like if that's what you really knew, then you would be out there sharing it with the world, which I think is 100% true, right? So you've got this awakening, stage 1, you've got this original awakening, and your eyes are open to how amazing the plant-based diet is or the vegan diet, and you've got a passion, a burning passion within you that you want to share with others. So you enter stage 2, the proselyting stage, where you go out there and you do share it with others. You talk to your colleague and you tell him about his cholesterol and you explain how his life can be totally changed by this plant-based diet, right? I think we've all experienced how you go out there, you start talking to people, you're so excited, and then you bump into several people, including your family, your friends, who think you're a little bit of a lunatic. Let's be honest. They bring all these studies in to show you how you're wrong, and they bring in all this confusing, conflicting information. They keep asking you about where you're going to get your protein, and all of these things, they just kind of immediately shut off. And I want to take a minute here to just pause, and because I want to be kind to our family and our friends who are experiencing this new version of us. they are working, just like us, they are working off of confirmation bias, which means that we each have a set of beliefs going on inside our brain, and our brain likes to be right, which we mentioned in the past. So it finds things that confirm our current beliefs. And it's very comfortable to stay wherever we're at. We have this list of beliefs in our head that the world works a certain way, and if someone comes totally left field and shoots something at us that's completely different, our mind has to deal with that. And sometimes that mind opens up and it receives that awakening, and we totally change our mind and we change our direction. But a lot of times that doesn't happen. A lot of times we receive new information, but we're not really ready to receive it. We don't want to make room for it in our brain, so we just keep looking for evidence that confirms whatever our current beliefs are, and we reject the evidence that denies or contradicts what our current belief system is. And it's just how our brains are wired. It's not their fault. So let's be compassionate to them and not be judging them about this. But that's just something that happens for everyone, including you. Like if someone came up to you, again, this happens all the time, as you're proselyting to other people, they come up to you and they have all these studies that contradict what you believe. And you reject those studies too, because you believe that the plant-based diet is amazing, just like I do. And it's hard to open up your brain and want to believe that stuff as well. So it works both ways. We can be compassionate to one another and still share our message, right? So that's phase 2. So depending on who you are and who you encounter, this stage may last from 2 months to 6 months to years. You may just be so passionate about sharing your message. For me, I can't say how long it lasted. I don't know how to quantify that, but I've been very passionate about it. But there comes a time when you kind of slip into stage 3, which I'm going to call subdued silence. You've met all of this resistance out there, and you just kind of decide, instead of continuing to share your message, that you're going to just be quiet about it, since no one is really listening and no one understands what you're trying to tell them or appreciates how you're trying to help them to overcome all of these health problems that they have and understand and change the world. So you slip into this subdued silence where you're just going to be quiet and not bother anyone about it. And I have a plant-based pediatrician now. Well, she's a family doctor actually. And she mentioned this as well. These same stages. You get that original awakening, you get excited. She had that as well. She came back to her practice as a doctor and she said, wow, this is amazing. I'm a doctor. I can change the world. I'm going to start sharing this information with everybody. And you'd think because she's a doctor, people would listen to her and turn their thinking around and she can make a huge impact, which some doctors have done that. But I also know that they get a lot of backlash, just like you and I do. They're not immune to that. So she received a lot of backlash from her message, even though she was a doctor and in a trusted position. People did not want to believe what she had to say, and they shut down around her. So she mentioned to me how she stopped openly proselyting, is what I'm calling it. She stopped openly sharing that message with other people because they weren't ready or willing to receive it. She said, I put up my posters, and she's on the little search online that you can find her and see that she's plant-based. But other than that, I don't share unless I feel like somebody's open to it. And then I say something like, would you be open to exploring a dietary approach to this problem? And then she shares it that way. And that's her choice, and that's how she decides to deal with it, right? So we get excited, we go out there, we tell everybody, we receive backlash, and we kind of slip into silence for a while, at this time we're trying to figure out, how are we going to continue? How are we going to move forward? Are we going to stay in silence? Are we going to share every day anyway? Am I passionate enough that I'm going to become a plant-based doctor? I'm going to become Dr. Greger and I'm going to just shout it out to the world? Or am I going to just kind of sit back and look for opportunities to share it? And when I see them, I'll take those opportunities, right? So this is kind of the stage of reflection and silence. It doesn't have to be a bad silence where we're reflecting on what move are we going to make next. Okay. And then the fourth stage is just a reawakening where you decide to come out and start talking to people again, where you've read something or you saw another documentary, or you're talking to your friend, like this friend that I found at the dinner, that just reignites that fire in you, and you remember all of that passion that you used to have. You remember that it's important and you're willing to go out there and share again. So it's just this cycle of awakening, sharing, and maybe silence and reawakening. And I think that's totally natural. I recently had a reawakening. I've always been passionate, but I go through these cycles just like you do. And this morning at 12:30 a.m. or p.m. a.m. in the morning a.m., I woke up with this awakening because yesterday I went to a youth activity. I work with the youth at our church, the young women, and we were planning a little activity. They had mentioned that they wanted to learn how to cook. And here I am. I'm a health coach. I have a course on how to cook and how to save time and money with the plant-based diet. And I'm so excited to share that with the girls. So I'm thinking, okay, yeah, they said they wanted to cook. They don't have anything planned for the next activity. I live right next to the church. We'll just come over to my house and I'm going to teach them. And my mind's just going, all right, I'm going to teach them all about the plant-based diet. I'm going to share all these things that I know. And I'm going to teach them all that I know, and they're just going to get it for free. I'm just basically going to give them my course for free on a condensed version, and I'm going to change their lives because they're youth and they're impressionable, right? Their minds are still open, and I'm going to be able to change their lives. So all this is going on in my head. I'm so excited about it. I get to the activity. We're doing volleyball, and I'm talking to the girls, and I'm like, hey, I know we don't have an activity for next week. This is what I'm thinking. Let's come over to my house and cook. Which that's all sounding great, right? And then one of the girls says, oh, yes, I can teach us how to cook. My mom's so great at cooking. She has this great recipe for chicken enchiladas, and I know how to make mac and cheese, and she's going on. And maybe if we have time, I could make a dessert. Whew. So I backpedal here. I have a little moment of silence, and because I'm there to support them and I want them to share their passions and their talents with each other. And as a leader, I want to be able to step back and let them explore and share those passions with us. So at the time, I stepped back and I said, you know what? Yeah, you be in charge. You decide what you want to cook and you come over and we can cook it at my house. That'll be fine. And I thought to myself, we'll go over nutrition and stuff later because she's got this passionate thing and I understand what it means to be passionate and I know she wants to share it. So I was feeling okay about that decision in the moment. But last night I woke up at 12 a.m. and I'm not feeling passionate about that. My whole being is kind of shuddering at the thought of her coming in and making mac and cheese in my kitchen and dessert because I see the youth and they're struggling and I can see that they're setting themselves up, not for failure, but they're not setting themselves up to become the best version of themselves. I see their teeth, that their gums just aren't that healthy, and some of them are overweight, and so many of them are struggling with mental health issues. And I see what they eat. I see what the stress that they have and what they go through, and my heart just really wants to help them. And I can't let them come in and eat mac and cheese and just continue that cycle. I can't let them bring that into my house. And I seriously don't know what conversation we're going to have about this yet, but it woke me up again, where I remembered my purpose is to help other people. And this is one of the main reasons I started this podcast, was to share my message with the world, to encourage other people, to give people like myself a place where we can gather and feel like we're understood, and where we can create a force that can change the world. And I want to encourage you to join me. I want to encourage you to go and have your reawakening. Go find a podcast or a documentary or a book that you've heard about recently, and just reignite that fire inside of you, that fire that started, I don't know how long ago. Remember the excitement that you had at that time. And if you're in that fire stage right now, join me and reflect on what is it that you can do to move this message forward. It could be as simple as that doctor where you just stay silent and you look for opportunities to share with people who are willing to hear you. Or it could be that you actively talk to people about it a little bit more than maybe you have in the past. But I just want to encourage you to keep sharing. Don't get discouraged and stay silent forever, because the world needs our message. People need to know that the plant-based diet is going to solve their problems. They need to know that it cures cancer. They need to know that it reverses heart disease. They need to know what an impact the meat industry is making on our earth, and how it's honestly destroying our earth, and it has like 10 times more emissions than vehicles, which I think is insane. Okay, don't quote me on that number. I can't remember the number exactly, but it is an insane amount more than vehicle emissions is produced by animal byproducts, right? Because we eat animal products, so many of them. So people need to know this stuff, and you have a message to share. And I'm not sure what it is exactly. I'm not sure how you can share your message with the world, but I know you know, and I know you can find out. I know you can reach deep inside of you and figure out what your calling is in this world, because you have this message of salvation. I just keep bringing it back to kind of these church words. Maybe if that's turning you off, then you can think of it in a different way. But I just really feel like it's the same thing. We have a message that we want to share with the world that we think is going to change lives. And it's important, and it's worth being rejected for. I was a missionary for a year and a half out in the world, knocking on doors, sharing a message that I thought the world needed. And I can't tell you how many times I was rejected, right? It was a tough thing to do, but I enjoyed it, because the times that people did answer and the times that they responded and were ready for the message that we had, were totally rewarding. And I could see how their eyes lit up, and I could see how their lives changed because of the message that we shared with them. And it's true for this as well. People's eyes are going to light up whenever they're ready. So I guess my message for you today is to go out and find those people who are ready to receive your message. We're not necessarily here to convince people who don't want to listen. We are here to share what we know with people who do. And a great time to share are times in our lives when things are changing. Like if you just got a diagnosis for heart disease, that would be a perfect time to share. And I've seen people's comments again on social media about when you have reached out in those times trying to be helpful. And I'm not saying that I have the perfect solution, the perfect how to do that, but a lot of times we're rejected even in those situations, which I totally get it. I totally understand, but I just want to encourage you to keep trying, because yeah, you might be rejected 10 times, you might be rejected 20 times, but what if one person listens to you and changes their life? Isn't that worth those 20 rejections? I personally think it is. So just get out there, get involved. I will try to share as many things as I possibly can on this podcast to give you some ideas of what you can do to go out there and change the world. but I promise that I don't have all the answers, and I know that you can find your answer for yourself. So go out there, look around, reignite that fire first, look around and see what opportunities are available to you. Maybe you're donating to certain causes. You go find somebody who's already paving the way and you support them in the ways that they need to be supported. You buy their books, you give them money, right? Or maybe it's just simply buying a book for a friend or sitting down and watching a documentary with others. You've got this. I know you can make healthy change happen in the world, and I encourage you to do so. What you do absolutely matters. That's my message for today. Make healthy change happen. Have a fabulous day. Bye-bye. Yoo-hoo! Thanks for jamming with me. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and click subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you next time for another great episode of the I Cut the Mustard Show.